I'm ibxtoycat, and I am here in the Let's Play world, but this isn't going to be any ordinary Let's Play or live stream, but instead it's going to be a bit of a weird mixture in between. I have been going through a big roller coaster of emotions, and one of the things that I think is hard to admit is, one, that you have something happening to begin with, but two is like the real things that you're thinking during it. I think a lot of people are very able to discuss the surface level things of like, oh yeah, so some days I feel like I feel good, and some days I feel like not. But the real deeper things below that, and the really important stuff to do with life, death, the universe, and everything in between, are what I want to talk about at least a little bit today. I was going to do an ordinary Let's Play, but I realized fairly quickly that that isn't where my mind or my heart is at. And one of the hardest things, but most important things to realize, is when you're not fully up to something. You can do it at 90% capacity, but if you could do something that actually fits where you're at, it might be better for the world in general. And so, hello everyone, I'm ibxtoycat, and in case this is somehow the first thing you're watching in a while, I dealt with the funeral the only person who raised me recently. It's if you will, I got like a 2-for-1 on parents' deaths because of that's how things worked. And so long story short is I feel like it's been like one of those processes that's been like mostly fine, but I went through the and like everyone likes to act like, yep, so it's kind of like what happened with the royals, where you start dressing black and then nothing will ever be happy again, is what some people, I think Queen Victoria once said that. And ultimately, like, it's a nice belief that, like, yep, some things are just forever broken, but I think ultimately you only will actually like, if you're not, if someone in your not immediate life dies that you don't see every single day, then actually it doesn't affect your day-to-day life in any meaningful way. It is still Christmas. I still have Bucks Fizz, for example. My day-to-day understanding of how face cams work and how correct live stream setup goes, they're still all just as broken as they always have been. That's an interesting, important point. But the thing that comes up about it is all of the other feelings and all of the other weird things you go through. And ultimately, yeah, I felt like I genuinely had no expectations going into a funeral, and I solely just want to share some of my findings, if only because it might help some people out there, and also you might find it interesting. And so, yeah, one of the weird things about one of the obvious, like, sadnesses of death is everyone's like, yeah, well, that person isn't there anymore. It's, like, incredibly obvious to think about. Like, it's a trope that we all work with all the time for... It's the most common way to, like, discuss a sad thing that's happened in media. It's like, ooh, someone's died. It's the biggest bad a person can suffer. And, yeah, I guess we kind of think about, like, death a lot from, like, a selfish, ourselves perspective. But one of the weird things that is interesting about it that I came to realize is you're not almost sad. Yeah, there's a weird gap in life that happens where, like, something that you expect is entirely for you. Also, Bucks Fizz, smoked salmon, and deli meats are all one needs in life. Yeah, I'm gonna have the best Christmas this year. That's one of the things, one of the unique things that I get to realize is important. But yeah, everyone likes to say, like, oh yes, a death made me realize some somber, really important thing. And when it comes to me, in the case of, like, there's quite a few things I realized, like, yeah, now is the time. I care about doing this. I've got to do it. But one of the less than interesting things is, like, yeah, actually, one of the weird things about, like, someone else dying is you're like, they lose out on a lot of things in life now. There's a lot of things they don't get to have. Like, when you die, your age stops going. And so, there are all sorts of important people that died before the internet was big. There are all sorts of people that died before the riot. There are people, get this right, the majority of humans who have ever lived never got to play Minecraft. Think about that for just a second. How truly tragic that makes the majority of the human beings that have existed on this planet. And so, yeah, I think it's an important thing to kind of get over every dimension of a thing. Is that, yeah, getting someone not being there is quite easy to understand at, like, a distant level, and the closer and closer it gets to you, I think, is the more you start to have to work out, like, no, it's sad. It's sadness for the lack of... Also, this is not the correct place. Whoopsie. There's a lot of interesting, like, extra bonus points in there that I figured it'd be worth, like, diving into a little bit. As we have a more of a collective talk about, like, what does it really even mean to be alive to begin with? Something we can all casually think about on a day-to-day basis, right? It's like, well, you know, are you really living or are you just there? It's something it's something people like to say all of the time, but really actually is an interesting point that every day you have to get closer towards some goals by the end, right? Otherwise, who knows where it goes. Also, the majority of humans still to be born will never play Minecraft. Nah, that's not true, Playgoo. I mean, I guess the majority. Technically true. Isn't it wild that the majority of people born today still, like, are still being born into, you know, like, what we would probably call, you know, objective poverty. Like, there are people being born in a world where, like, they might not ever, you know, like, play with a computer with Minecraft on. That everyone has phones in these countries, and like, so, you know, in a way it's one of those like fake necessities that you make up so you can sell a few extra donations for your charity. But you know, there are lots of people who are born into a situation where most of their waking hours are focused on getting food or getting water so that they do not die. Whereas in your lowest moments, even when you're fairly poor in the Western world, you know, I'd like to believe I can confirm firsthand, right? Like not to believe I can confirm firsthand. But in the Western world, when you're poor, it means like, yeah, well, you miss out on like some luxuries, and you struggle with like knowing for sure where something's coming from. But you do know that there's like layers of support under the support. But it's like, no, there are people who live under the real condition of like, yeah, I might die this week. Who knows for sure? It's an interesting thing that something I'm always very cautious of is like this idea of suffering Olympics. It's something a lot of people... Oh, that's spooky to look at. It's something a lot of people like to do almost to themselves. I don't know why you would choose to do this to yourself, and yet people do. But this idea of like, yeah, well, actually, suffering doesn't matter unless it's comparable to someone else. It's something I'm always very cautious of. It's like, a lot of... So, one time I was in, I was in school, and... this girl got really offended just because I spoke about the vague concept of death. That was enough to her to be like, oh, that's so rude. And I'm like, I can talk about it. I just made up a family member who was dead. I think I said like, yeah, well, you know, my grandma's actually dead. She's like,
I think people have a hard time conceptualizing death, regardless of their beliefs in the afterlife. All you know is being, so what is not being?
That's a really good point, Chris H. I think that's a good thank you by the way for the tip so much. I appreciate it. But it's a really interesting idea behind that of yeah, the thing that I think really gets people struggling is coming to terms with like, oh, yeah, there's a different state out there. The reason that I think like we're in a world where people are less religious now. But despite people being less I think it's easy to assume like, oh, if people are less religious now, then they clearly believe in what we would think is the scientific explanation, which is like, yeah, you die and then you're gone. Like, you know, you don't think about a ladybug when it dies being like, well, the ladybug's in ladybug heaven now. You know, you would say like, well, you know, it's probably gone, huh? But yeah, at the there's an interesting thing that we wouldn't say that about a ladybug, but we would say it about a person. We say like, yeah, well, I don't know for sure what happens to the person when they're gone. It's a spooky concept because you have to think like, well, it can't just, you know, like there's a really deep idea in working out what it means to not do something anymore. Like I think you struggle with one of the weirdest things. I'm sure anyone here who has gone through this recently can confirm. It's been like 10 years for me, but I'm one of those people who still has the occasional like dream about like, oh god, I'm in school right now and I haven't prepared at all for this exam, or you know, like I have nightmares about that stuff all the time because it's so, once you're in school for years of your life, it's so hard to conceptualize what it's like. Also, Toycat Hell, house fire every day, says Canby. It's so hard to imagine what school is like. What is life like with no school? I do not know. You wake up every day, and what do you do with yourself? And that's like, you know, that's when you're like young and you've got like the ability to like change in some reasonable ways. What is it like when you don't have that anymore? Like, it's a crazy thing to imagine. It's a crazy thing that you need to imagine it. It almost feels like it should be fairly easy, but yet it is entirely not. It has no ease to it, in my honest opinion. Also, I think this is going to be a whole hallway, so we'll just remove all of it from, like, here onwards. Make a nice big cross-section that we can later build a hallway up and out of. It'll be a nice little room, I guess. Anyway, yeah, the lack of... I've been out of school for 13 years, and I still get those dreams too, says Emma Lee. They never go away. And bear in mind, that's something when you're young. The younger you are, the more neural pathways you have. I think a baby has 2 billion neural pathways, and an adult has 1 billion. That is to say, by the way, not that babies are better at things, but that they're more adaptable. As you go through life, you lose your adaptability. You become kind of more rigid in the path that you're taking. And I like to... but so the struggle of, like, what is it like to not be doing a thing is hard to think about for school. It's hard to think about for jobs. That people get so emotional on the last day of those things, because it's like, what am I doing now? The things we have grown used to will soon not be there. And that is spooky for very, very basic things. And it's unfathomable for something as large as, like, you know, like, it's weird to think about what is it like to wake up and not go to school every day. I think a lot of people struggle with retirement. Like, you're age 16, you're still like, but what am I meant to do without, like, I go to the job every day. That's how I derive my sense of meaning. But if I don't have a job, how am I meant to derive any sense of anything? It's a real struggle for a lot of people. And so imagine something even bigger than a job or even bigger than school. Yeah, also babies absorb information at insane rates. Yeah, that's everyone knows that fact is like, oh, why is there just a big hole here? Does it go, okay, I'm just gonna patch this up. Just gonna put some in there, and I'm just gonna choose to ignore that one for now. But yeah, everyone knows the fact that babies learn at insane rates, and it's because they have all these neural pathways. They're very adaptable, but also very low knowledge, right? And you slowly over life, you switch the two. You get more knowledge and you become less adaptable. And so you get more and more entrenched in this idea that, like, yeah, waking up every day is the start. You'll probably retire someday, imagine that. So the weird thing is being a YouTuber, I'm either going to retire at 40 and, you know, like, do some weird stuff after that, or I'm arguably going to never retire. I enjoy this so much that if I'm 70, still, you know, even if it's, like, entirely optional, I'm still making a couple of videos a week, like, let you know what's going on in the world. Yeah, I think the ceiling probably should still be higher, I think, for a lot of this. I think one of the weirder concepts to think about is how, you know, like, I guess a lot of people don't like routine change as it is, right? It's a fairly common trope that there's whole groups of people that really struggle when you mess with their routine. But imagine messing with the routine of literal existence. I think that's the struggle, is trying to conceptualize what is without life. What is there without that? I'm not sure one becomes less adaptable, but as you age, you don't have to adapt much because you have more resources and wisdom. What if it is, though, Jeff? I mean, again, I'm just going to counterpoint you here. Your point sounds right. What if you get more resources and wisdom specifically because you are less adaptable? You need to have more knowledge of what you're... Like, I don't know, like, I had a, he's a good friend of mine, but, like, years ago, when he was, like, 14, there was a guy who would just be like, oh, yeah, I heard you mention this in your videos. I know the solution. Oh, yeah, I saw your thumbnails on your streams weren't good. Here's... Like, he could solve all sorts of weird problems. As, like, as a 14-year-old, he was an incredibly handy person to just have you know, like, randomly send stuff over. And, so it was always something interesting to, like, hear about. Like, whoa, he can just do that. And it's like, yeah, I was the same at 14. It's like, yeah, you want to solve a problem? You just start, you know intuitively where to start. Whereas a lot of people, you almost work yourself out of that, like, problem-solving ability. It's almost easier to be like, I don't know. And so I'm just not going to solve the problem. And so the problem is not going to be solved. I think dude, I'm 54, had a TBI strike, and died clinically 4 times due to hypoxia, and I have a better outlook on life than you do. Ooh, says get in the car. Yeah, you. So first of all, see that's what I was saying about like it's making any form of suffering a competition. Always a bit wild, but it's yeah, I think that's one of the things like you're never gonna know life, right? You're never gonna know it fully. Also, my new job is being the executive producer of online videos. I've never done that before. Exactly. Scary when you first like. I feel like that's why almost every job wants to hire someone who's done the thing before, because they don't have to like ask around like, so what do people want me to do? They just get in and they do it. They know their deliverables. They know they know the things that need to be done from them. And they can just start doing the things. I used to have house fires every day until I subscribed. I've suffered way more since KMP 600. Yeah, the whole idea of like suffering being a measurable thing is really weird, because you can measure positivity in a way that probably doesn't line up with how positivity actually feels. But you can quite easily say, I am happy because I have a car, and then someone can be like, I am happy because I have 2 cars. And it's like, ooh, that is more cars, so it's more happy. I'm happy because I have a good dessert. You're happy because you've eaten a dessert every day this week. Well, that's more happy, objectively speaking, right? I feel like there is objectively measurable ways to get happiness, but even then, you're not really getting the happiness of it. I think people are going after status, and status is objectively measurable. Like, you can say to someone like, yeah, being the prime minister of a country is a higher status role than being a engineer at Ford. I don't care what type of engineer at Ford you are. You probably have more status, which is the weird thing that humans are going after. And so in the same, you can measure quite a few positive things well. Measuring negativity is real hard. Like, if you say, the situation I was saying is a girl freaked out and she's like, don't talk about death. And I was like, but yeah, I can. Like, my grandparent died or something like that. But like, everyone's got a dead nan, but my mum died. I don't think it was mum, actually. I think it was sister. That's what it was. It was sister who died. My sister died. And so, like, it's a 13-year-old. And it's like, but first of all, looking back, she definitely had some like troubled stuff going on. Clearly, don't get me wrong. But also, it's like that trying to measure suffering up against each other. It's like, well, actually, suffering has many, many elements of it. I feel like one of the things I'm pretty good at is that I'm not, my instinct is not to be sad on the behest of being sad. There's a lot of times where being sad is useful, and like where it's almost the thing that your brain tempts you to do the most. Maybe that's maybe that's only the way I would describe it. But there are to my mind, there are so many situations where like being sad is just the easiest way to deal with a situation. It's like, it's almost tempting. It's like, yeah, if you just start being sad about it, it's solved. It's done. But yeah, I think but anyway, so the struggle is like, how do you measure it, and also how do you really think about what it means to be? What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be any of these things? It's so hard already. Like, even if we can measure, like, well, you have, 3 bowls of cereal. That's more than 2 bowls of cereal, and that's already hard when you start to bowl up. Well, what's worth more, 3 bowls of cereal or 1 plate of pancakes? You get tricky on that, but when you start to get to, so what is worth more, 1 sister and a aunt who's dead, or 2 grandparents and a parent? What's worth more in that scenario? I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, just I wanna go around. I wanna be useful to anyone out here who is who's gone through or is going through something, and they're like, I don't know the correct set of things that's meant to happen. But yeah, in case you are going through the same thing, sorry, I broke one of my ears recently, and so I don't know if I'm hearing things sometimes. Like, I've got like a weird imbalanced ear hearing, so I hear way more out of one ear than the other. It means I was like, I'm sure there was someone to my right there. And like, I've got like old man tendencies already. Anyway, so the point is to say, it's so hard to measure what is life. It's so hard to measure, like what is it that even you would be losing when you're there. But it's in those moments where you're surrounded by everyone that you come to those conclusions of like, yep, would have missed that, would have missed that. There's the craziest thing about a funeral, I think, is like the clever thing about having a big gathering. It's almost a party, right? It's not a wedding. You're not celebrating the union of people. You're almost celebrating the forever, like divorce of someone from their surroundings in a way. But one of the most interesting things about it is you're deliberately having this big event together to realize, like, yeah, this is what events about them are. It's the strangest thing, a funeral. I really came to terms with this. Like, a funeral is the one time in your life where everything is about you and you don't get to be there. You are specifically not invited. I guess unless you believe that your body is still you after a certain point. I think that's a thing that is... I think some people struggle with the concept of that. Like, well, like, I've said forever, once in my opinion, and if I'm being honest, not in my opinion, but let's be diplomatic and say in my opinion, when I die, my body is immediately like, you should be nice to it, but it becomes the property of whoever happens to be near me. Like if I die while on a spaceship, or if I die while I'm on a flight, I'm flying American Airlines and I die, that body is now American Airlines' property, as far as I'm concerned. Like, they can be nice and say, yeah, we best get that back to the family, huh? But also, I feel like, it's not. But a body, people say, like, my body, my choice all the time, in a way that I think is interesting, because the whole thing about life is how we are kind of not, right? Also, there was a super chat. It didn't show up, though. Hey, it's Boxy Blue Luck, loving the philosophy talk, but I think I need to inform you of something illegal. A bubble block in survival, a silk touch, a lever in magma water. Also, Streamlabs wasn't working. Oh, thank you so much, CXL Tobin. I wonder why it didn't show up. It definitely should be. But thank you very much. I think anyway. So the point is to say that you don't get to go to your own funeral, and isn't that also? It's gonna show up now. It was like 5 minutes old, and I was like, oh no, there's been a mistake. But it finally made its way to my my notification box, so it's gonna all show up. It's gonna be fun, chat. You're gonna see it. I read out a message, but it's gonna read itself out. Yeah, look at me. I can predict the future.
Hey, it's Boxy Blue Luck, loving the philosophy talks, but I think I need to inform you of something illegal. A bubble block in survival, silk touch, a lever in a magma water. Also, Streamlabs wasn't working.
Thank you, thank you for the tip, Boxy Blue Luck, fun name by the way. But yeah, Toycat is a time traveler confirmed. Yeah, there's a really, so anyway, the things that are like interesting is like maybe aren't obvious to everyone. Is like, yeah, so a funeral is basically a big event where everyone gets, you get to have like a big event and you hold it and everyone's like, oh yeah, let me tell you some things. And one of the tropes about funerals is everyone always says incredibly positive stuff, and I want to be clear, I'm not like against that, but I also feel like one of my important beliefs is that to truly celebrate a person, you almost need to give them depth. You need to explain that, like, yeah, here is the way that they made mistakes. Here are the things that they got wrong, but they're still good people, despite it, I feel like a lot of people missed that whole bit. Also, there we go, Jack Blevins! Hey, Toycat, been a while since I've caught a stream. You're looking great. I hope you've been having a good year. Happy Thanksgiving. Is it Thanksgiving right now, or is it this weekend? Honestly, okay, so last year, Thanksgiving was like a little while after I had a breakup, and, it's weird because it was my best Thanksgiving I think I ever had in America. Like, Thanksgiving is a holiday I've never been able to celebrate. It's all about family, but specifically all about American family. So, it's something that hasn't really come together. Where do I get my clay? There is a specific place I keep my clay, but I don't know where it is right now. Ice and snow, Oreo, soul and magma, mycelium. There's definitely a clay chest. I wonder, I must have moved it, or is it in the sand? Is it in the nether? Is it in obsidian? Is it, there's a place for it. There's no Thanksgiving in my country. Yeah, there's no Thanksgiving in my country either. If you'll believe it. Okay, I moved it over here. That's what happened to it. Look at this, by the way. I've got like a, I feel like clay, bricks, and mud just go so perfectly in the same place together. It just feels right.
It's Toycat, but the Minecraft is Minecraft. Paying my taxes and preventing house fires. I'm seeing if I can help you out with any developer stuff. Toycat is yes.
Jaja, first of all, I appreciate you going through, Deshi does a lot, is pretty good at, like, keeping on top of stuff with toy maps. He manages a lot of the social media, so he's very good. And so, yeah, I sent him a message to send to you if you want the update on that. But thank you, for the tip. It means a lot to me. Yeah, one of the things that's really, I said this before, but one of the things that I realize is important is, a lot of people, I don't just take a death to mean like, oh yeah, this is sad, life is precious, I'll move on. Because I think that's an easy message you can get anytime you want to. I take a death as a reminder of like, yeah, here is what failed in the, you know, in a way that is hopefully not too mean or rude. You get to see like, okay, this is where that idea, like, while you're still alive, the scoreboard is still running. No matter how bad you think things are, you've still got time on the clock. Mathematically, most of you do. I mean, statistically, you know, maybe someone who watches this dies in the next 2 weeks. But most of you, outside of that one guy, you know, that one go actually. Let's not. So anyway, the point is to say, you have time on the clock. Your scorecard's still running. But after you die, it's like, okay, so now you gotta like look at that, and you gotta be not critical, not mean, but you gotta like realistically say like, okay, here are some things that with the scoreboard up, nailed it. Like, wow, I can't believe that's something more people don't do. And here are the things that like you have to not do if you think there's, you know, like you have to not do unless you're sure you can see it through. And so there's a few valuable things like that. But one of those is like, one of the successes I wanted to learn from is like, yeah, if you follow through hard on everything, you'll get more done in your life. Whatever the number of years you have is, it's important to make them count, to get it to go well, etc. Thanksgiving is just a celebration of gluttony. And would we have it any other way? That's the real question. But yeah, I find that the older you get, the more precious the time. Yeah, you're running against a clock that only counts one way, right? And so it's important to make it count. But one of the things that like there's this sense, I've heard a lot of people get it from their parents. There's something about class that leads to, I'm not gonna give you a deep socioeconomic deep dive, and instead just say that being proud is a pointless characteristic, except for when it's not. Like, being proud makes you someone who does good for people, even when it's hard to do so. And
Thanksgiving is when we give thanks to Toycat via Streamlabs.
Thank you. Okay, you know, I have worked out my repurposing of Thanksgiving. I have decided that I like this definition. This is the one I'm on board with. This is the one that we're going to be going with. Thanksgiving is officially a Toycat national holiday, and if you don't agree with that, then you are bigoted against our people, and that's not okay. You can't, not in 2022. You can't be bigoted. But no, yeah. So the that, you know, click. You know, there's a weird cliche in streaming that like, oh yeah, should you stream your birthday? It's probably a good day for tips. And, you know, there's a lot of thoughts about like, okay, what is the both best and worst times and stuff. You know, Thanksgiving, the best Thanksgiving of my life was because I bought myself a turkey. I went to a steakhouse. I live really close to a steakhouse. I tell you what the steakhouse was, but it was literally right there, and it was the best steakhouse in Vegas. It was one of the best places I ever gotten food. they did a really good like just come in for lunch special, and you could get like incredibly fancy food for like like 20 something day. It was good. It was good. Anyway, so I had the best turkey of my life because it's steakhouse is a lot of like an interesting thing about steakhouses that I just didn't really put together. Like it makes sense but also doesn't. Is like because steak is an expensive food, all of the other things on a steakhouse's menu, like the burgers, the fries, mashed potatoes, they all cost way more than they should. Like drinks are another example. But if the place is doing it right, that's because it's the fanciest place in town. If you want to have, there's almost like a thing, right? Like you can't expect to pay the very minimum prices for something and get the very highest service. It's I think very few people expect that, at least. But and so yeah, there's something about like I was sad and I was alone. I wasn't even actually alone. I was like in an apartment with someone who was actively trying to ignore me. It was a weird living situation I had for a bit there. But while I was in this, I came to this like realization that like, oh yeah, there's a this is a way I can get like the best Thanksgiving dinner. It's like if you've not got a family, you might as well have a guy who's very well trained in the arts of of turkeying or whatever and make it work. Also, it's not Thanksgiving, but it is my 20th birthday. Thanksgiving is Thursday. Thanksgiving is not Thursday. You've made a mistake there, Hannah Joyce. Thanksgiving is Sunday, right? Right? Yeah, Thanksgiving is a Sunday. It's the last Sunday in November. See, I know your country better than you do. Checkmate. See, this is why I don't diverge from philosophy, everyone. Yeah, Thursday giving. Yeah, like what are you gonna do? Thursday, you're gonna take it. You're gonna go back to work the next day, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna skip your ToyCat Thursday live stream? That's ridiculous. If Thanksgiving was on a Thursday, no one would ever get anything done. It wouldn't be called a Thanksgiving weekend if it was a Thursday. Thursday's not a weekend, you idiots. I hate to tell you all, it's a bad time for you all to learn this. Clearly, there's a lot of Americans who have been celebrating Thanksgiving on the wrong day. I'm learning, everyone needs to learn at some point, and I guess I can teach you your own national holidays. If that's how it's gotta be, that's how it's gotta be. But yeah, it's a week off because it's a Thursday. This is getting more and more ridiculous. So you make up a holiday that no one else cares about, and then you take a week off for it, and it's like this close to Christmas. It's not even tactical. If you wanted to have a week off holiday, you'd pick the middle of like June 24th or something. You wouldn't have it like 4 weeks before Christmas. You're just writing off the second half of the year. You're just saying, yeah, that's dumb. Canadians do it better, says Chantal Exley. I've heard that's true. On June 24th, good day for a holiday. Yeah, evenly space out your holidays. Like, I understand, I always used to think the best time for a birthday was June 24th. Your parents could financially recover from a good Christmas and get you a good birthday, if you were lucky. But, yeah, November is a dumb place to put a holiday. Especially, because Americans are big on Halloween, which is late October. Like I say, you're just saying, second half of the year? Nah, I'm phoning this one in. You can't phone in a country. You can't. It doesn't work. It literally does not work. You're gonna run into some serious issues if you think that's a point. Anyway, also it's entirely pointless to have these conversations covering the meaning of life, but exclude religion topics, says Flapjack. No, actually, I think it's much like.
Indeed, we should hold all good thanks to ToyCat, giver of amusement, bringer of welcome distraction, relieved face.
Okay, that's right. Thanks. Thursday giving, as apparently will now be known, for the because I guess we're looking at ToyCat's stream schedule and we're being thankful that he streams on Thursdays. Thanksgiving is just practice for Christmas. All the meals and family about the gifts. I guess you got to do a dry run before you move on to the wet run. No, yeah. So I want to first of all say first of all, giver of amusement, binger of welcome distraction. I hope that you get more than some distraction from these videos, and I hope that you enjoy it. But the other thing I hope... So why is that? Lava is such a mess. Sometimes just one block causes this much pain. I guess this must be where the wither exploded. It looks too big to be coincidentally nothing. Speaking of too big to be coincidentally nothing, I think I just want to go back to Flapjack's comment, because they said, like, yeah, if you're going to discuss things about religion, then you're not actually discussing it. And it's like, I think it's the opposite. I think, imagine discussing politics of someone who would not believe that there was any way, like, if you want to discuss, like, something like minimum wage with someone, and the person said, yeah, there is just undeniable fact that you don't need a minimum wage, or it's undeniable fact that you can raise minimum wage as high as you like and living standards will improve. And you're like, but what about, you know, like, the power of unions and bargaining could be more powerful than a minimum wage and actually be realistic? They're like, nope, I've actually considered this, and I have a book right here that it's like, but what if it's like actually, you know, like minimum wages are, you know, something inflation, like if you're giving specifically all the people of the most discretionary income a large boost, you could be actually lowering the living standard of overall people. You know, you could make these, you could have these conversations with them. They'd be like, ha ha ha. But I'm 100% sure in my beliefs. I think to have a serious conversation about death, you have to be open to anything, and that means, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if this is a giant test? Life is just step one in a grander series of things happening. I think you should be open to that idea in the same way that you ideally probably should be open to the idea that, like, yeah, what if life does just end, and these are all things we have made up to get over that fact. It's dark to believe, but it's important to at least consider. You know, if you aren't considering it, you don't really believe in anything. You're just shutting your ears at all of the evidence, which is it's valid, but at least, you know, like, at least acknowledge you're doing it. That's always been my point on basically anything. If you don't want to have a good discussion about something, that's cool. Not everyone does. There's a lot that goes into it, but don't pretend that you've got the answer. Lower living standard equals more time spent in Minecraft equals living. Okay, so how do I lower living standards as fast as possible? It's the... Well, actually, you know what? The way I do it as fast as possible is I convince governments to lock people in their homes for 3 months to 2 years. One of those two. Anyway, I think there are so many theories of what happens when someone dies, and when someone you care about dies, it's interesting. This is the first time I've really had to consider where a person is. Anyone else that has died, genuinely, I don't know if I'd have met them again, you know? Like, either people died before I did know them, or they died after I knew them, but I never really knew them, and I don't think I ever was going to. That's the only deaths I've had in my personal family, or my family and friends. I had a friend, actually, I had a friend die 10 years ago. This is the closest I've had. I had a friend who died. He was a really, like, we hit off immediately. He was a real cool friend, and then he got really into meth, and he started begging. Like, I guess I don't get to know his redemption story. I guess he never got out of that redemption arc. He will forever have lost that battle, right? But the point is to say, like, I don't have... this is the first time where it's like, now I have to consider, like, oh, it's not just... what happens when you die is not just a me question, as it turns out. It's not just a fun discussion question. It is a genuine question of how does everyone deal with it? What happens when any of us dies? What happens when those you care about dies? The people, no matter who you care about, it is a fact that they will die before or after you. Thank you so much, Chris H, for 5 gifted memberships. And you know what? Speaking of gifted memberships, it's Bucks Fizz time. This is an aromatized wine product cocktail. This is a Christmas drink, and this is from Boots, a fancy London supermarket. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Appreciate it. Chris has been very kind. Life's too short not to be a Toycat member. Indeed, if you haven't watched a Toycat bathe in Mountain Dew, and indeed Iron Brew, then have you really lived at all? Many would say no. The majority would say no, and they'd be right. You know they'd be right. Okay, I'm actually going to heal up my tools. If you look at my shovel has been too bad for too long, and I don't have a great way to deal with it. But I'll just go to my village and I'll set some stuff up. Do 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 do. Love pig step. If you're doing estate planning, consider leaving your property to Toycat Enterprises. Yeah, okay, right now, write down, okay, you know, actually, here's a fun thing you can do. As a goof, if you don't want to think about dying, and you don't believe you're gonna die, or anything like that, just write down right now, on a piece of paper, when I die, everything should be left to, and then ibxtoycat, the YouTube channel. Write a small note about what you like about me, you know, like you really enjoy the videos and you feel like I made an impact. Like write something in there that makes it seem like it's real. And then get 2 people to sign it with you. Two people have to witness you signing it for the first time. Write down their names on this document. Then take photos of this document and make sure everyone you know has a copy. And and indeed, maybe get a lawyer just to make sure that money really is on its way. And then you can leave the ultimate Toycat tip. Just saying, if you really wanted to go extra on that is something I like. So a lot of places do rely, like charities especially, really rely on people bequeathing them money when they die. Because like if you didn't want to leave money to anyone alive, I didn't unfill my inventory, so this isn't gonna work. Didn't think this one through at all. Ooh, what's my least important item right now? I guess it's the gunpowder. I guess I put the gunpowder in the yellow chest. And then I have precisely 1 inventory slot to use for everything. Which sounds great. Yep, no issues with that whatsoever. And then if I put the torches back in there. Or indeed if I put these 6 firework rockets in there. Future me will appreciate those. And now I've got 2 inventory slots. Which I can use to get the things that I need for the villagers who need them. Okay, so wait, the will is optional. Yeah, did you know a will is optional? But there's a weird thing to me that like you really can. Yeah, I also can't talk about death without including your plan to release videos after your death, says Corbin. Yeah, this is something I've again, I've always had a very blasé attitude on death. Thank you so much, Joshua Lyles, for becoming the 427th channel member. Appreciate you joining the club. The coolest cat club. No, really, it means a lot. Thank you for joining. Also, yeah, so so Corbin mentioned something that is true. It might be surprising to some people. I am releasing a series of videos posthumously. I think I have to move the dates on them again this August. But there are some videos that are going to come out after I die. I haven't fully planned them yet to be like, oh, hey guys, I'm dead. Here's what I want you to know. But I think I should set that up, actually. I think I should move that around. The weird thing, okay, if you want to know something interesting, is so since when I set up the videos to go out after I died, I was the only person who had access to my channel. There is now 1 other person, and so as a result, there's a weird thing in, I guess, what I'm trying to say is, there's a weird thing in that, like, well, actually, I could release videos after I'm dead for a while if I wanted to. You know, like, the limit on, Jesus Christ! I didn't realize it would just pop itself up. This is my puck spits. And apparently they detonate. It's gone all over the desk. Well, you know what? Is that a known thing that just happens? That's cool. Anyway, to look sophisticated, I'm gonna put my Christmas drink. Yeah, this is a Christmas drink in the UK. It's delicious. I 100% recommend it. I've got a soggy keyboard. You moved to the US. Haven't we all? Las Vegas bartender moment. I get it because of the gunshot. I get it. That's what you're saying. What's this drink? Yeah, Bucks Fizz is a... it might be European more broadly, but I know it is British. It is a drink that is clementine juice and some form of white wine. It's a Christmas mimosa if you really wanted to if you really wanted to boil it down into something it's similar to. But, you know, you'd be boiling down years of British culture, so of course you won't be doing that. But yeah, the Bucks Fizz is a delicious drink. If you've never had Bucks Fizz, go looking for some. I don't know where you live or where Bucks Fizz will be found near you, but make sure that you put in the effort. It's worth doing. It's worth. You can trust me when I say that the Bucks Fizz is worth it. Also, there's so many. I didn't realize how much this has grown at some point while I wasn't looking. There's a lot of pumpkins down here, which means a lot of Also, there's a lot of glowberries, honestly. What am I meant to do with all these glowberries? Should I ask my sheep in the minecart, maybe? But there's a real interesting idea underpinning. What happens when you die is one interesting question. And we can all argue endlessly, we can all talk endlessly. I find comfort thinking we are all the same, not person, we are all distinct people. But we're all the same, we're all from the same species. There is a connection between all of us, even if not in some dumb spiritual way. We all come from the same common ancestor somewhere. And even further than that, all of those ancestors come from the same burst of energy at some point that happened at some point in the... Like, all energy is just recycled. It goes in and out from people to people. And since all energy is recycled, we are all connected in some way. And I'd like to believe that after death, that continues. You become, instead of being one person, you become an infinitesimally small part of many others. It's nice to believe. I don't know for sure. It's not my forte. It's just a nice thought. But what's much more important of a thought, in my opinion, is what happens after you die. Not to you, to those around you. Like, one of the things you realize very quickly at a funeral is, oh, this isn't for them. This wasn't, you know, like in the context of my mother, this wasn't for her. She's dead. She's not really enjoying this one. This is for everyone who is around still and is living with that. You know, like all these details of a funeral, even like paying for it. It's wild that in a way that you do pay for your own funeral. It's like, I don't know, it's an equivalent would be like if you traumatize someone by like, you know, imagine if you punch someone to death on the street and then two people watch it and you're liable for their like therapy costs. And it's like, well, it makes sense that like if they need therapy, I guess someone's gonna pay for it. But also it's a bit odd when you really dive into like, well, actually, is that expected? Also, I need to set up a more effective farm so I can spend less time doing goofy stuff like this. It always seems like it should be so fast. In fact, I'll load up on some farm items now so I can have that. Anyway, for an interesting thought, what happens after death? Watch the Kirkstart video, the egg. Yeah, it's an interesting thing that a lot of people who are scientifically minded, basically, no matter where you are in life, unless you're like just being anti-religion, almost everyone seems to have some borderline religious view. Like something that you can't see or prove, you can just believe. It's interesting that everyone comes to some conclusion, because ultimately that is what you have to think. Like, to be at true peace with death that's where you have to get at some point. Anyway, so the important thing is to say, what happens to those you need? The important question is not working out what happens when you die to you. The much more important question is what happens when you die to the people you love. What happens when you die to the people you care about? What happens when you die to the people who care about you? And so one of the things that I've always been, if only for goofy reasons, I've always wanted to make sure that once I am no longer able to make videos, and there are going to be people who are sad on my behalf. There are going to be people who are sad not honestly not because they care about me, but because like, who am I going to watch for update news now? There's going to be a lot of these. By the way, I'm just going to... There's a lot of Bucks Fizz on the desk, and I don't have any way to clean it up. So I'm going to just, you know, you only live once. Anyway, so... I got a fat life insurance policy, so my wife gets rich when I die. See, I don't like that because you're enriching an insurance company at the... You know, like, it would be better is if you just give your wife $8 every month or every week or whatever your life insurance costs. That's the real secret. Had a fight at a funeral of a client because the dead guy was wearing his tennis shoes and he went in the coffin to get them in front of everyone. Oh, really? Oh. Okay, here's the... Yeah, now we know the reason why they hide the bottom half of the coffins, right? That's gotta be the reason. I can't think of any other better one. Man, that's funny. I mean, probably not funny for the people who had to deal with their loved one being yeah, I don't know even the word for that is, like desecrated maybe. But yeah, the interesting question is what happens to people who care? How do they just keep spawning? All I want to do here is get some sleep, work on my thing. So there are people who are just going to be sad that you're not there, and so I want it to be a nice surprise for them. Just, oh yeah, here's another Toy Cat video. This is the last one now. I always thought it was cool. I don't. If there are a lot of people who are sad when Michael Jackson died. I have no clue why. You know, you know he made music, right? Like he wasn't singing to you. Anyway, ignoring my thoughts on like the fact that I'm not really like big on music, so I just don't get it in a way. There are lots of people who there are lots of people who are sad when any like public figure dies. And I just thought it was cool that, like, wait, did someone just released a record? And it happens like somewhat often, like almost every dead celebrity at some point they release a record because they've got some like tracks that that wasn't correct. They've got some tracks that they never fully released or like they didn't think were good enough, but like now that they're dead, it's better than nothing. And so I was in the pub when he died. So you remember your location. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I might cry during the final Toy Cat video, whether he's dead or alive, lol. I can give you the promise that as long as you can make, as long as you can, as long as I don't have to pay to upload videos onto YouTube, there'll still be Toy Cat videos. You will lose interest in me before I lose interest in you. That is my promise to all of you watching right now. You get my back. I promise I'll have yours for much longer. I've been going for much longer than you so far, and I intend to keep it that way. In our asymmetric relationship, like, you know, we've got a parasocial dating situation going on here, where I've been dating you for 14 years, and you've been dating me for somewhere between 2 to 6 years, and that's okay. That's a normal part. Well, I'll probably die first. You know, I would have figured that with wait, actually no, I wouldn't have. It's the interesting thing about maths on that too. Although, you know, you add in the fact that like women die on average like 3 years later than men do, probably because men are doing a lot of silly stuff, or maybe because actually, no, more seriously, yeah. Also, yeah, I want to say why did you move to America? It's because I just like the noise, the gun noises everywhere. I just needed to recreate them in some way. So I had to move to the place with the most sounds of guns. No, I think that is the thing I want to say right now is, you on this platform, if you like what I've got to say, I'll be here still saying it. You'll be gone before I'm gone. I guess maybe you'll die. I mean, hopefully not. Like you've got the house fires gone. I don't have the house fires gone, internet. But yeah, it's a real thing. Also, Darren Hughes is a true wife. Thank you for the gifted memberships, Darren. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing wonderfully. I've had a so to kind of just to explain some more things that maybe are useful to people is one of the most insane. Okay, I wanna share this not as like a critique of the situation, but as like a if anyone else feels this way. A lot of funeral stuff is there to make you feel like, yeah, you've got to do it. It's the thing that is done. And one of those things that confused me was like the idea of like, yeah, you've got to have a luxury car take you to the funeral. And so funeral places will charge you. They have a fleet of these vehicles. They charge you, in my case, it was $250, I believe, per vehicle. And they charge you to drive from your house. It's the most expensive Uber ride you'll ever get. It's like an Uber option, like Uber Dead, where like, oh yeah, in addition to taking you somewhere, we'll also take a coffin filled with one person of your choosing. I wonder actually if you could get a funeral home, like if you could trick a funeral home into being like, you know what, honestly, I've just always wanted to travel in a hearse. I want to lay in the back there. I don't think funerals are adopting to modern times in a number of ways. A lot of funeral trades on tradition. There were so many weird traditional things that I was like, oof. I don't know if that's how I would decide how things were done if I was picking today. But I'm not, so I shall remain in silence about it. Also, look, the amount of lava coming in now is good. Loving to see it. And then just one more to go over here. And that should be... There we go, yep. And now we've got... So now we're going to do another row of lava over here, once enough grows back. And we'll kind of slowly make a lava lake from it, using all of the extra cauldrons we have. Although, I guess we should place these extra cauldrons now. I've still got them all sitting here. I'll make a little gap in here, though, if I want to, just to make the walk a little easier. But otherwise, yeah, let's just make... Oh, hello there, Mr. Drowned. The most about 250 hours rental. That's standard for a hearse rental. So, but my point is to say, I guess, rather, is that I was trying the whole time to, like, vibe out, like, do I like this? Would I do this if anyone were alive? Which is a weird thing to say, I guess, is because almost a lot of it is almost about a lot of a funeral is meant to be this, like, it's a big one-time thing. You gotta go crazy for it. Thank you so much for the gift of memberships, Darren. If I get an Uber hearse, it fan mode will be Octo 1 from Ghostbusters. It's like a wedding. You can spend 30k, or of course they prefer 3k or 30k, but of course they prefer 30k. Yeah, it makes sense that there are a lot of people who win when you spend more, but it is interesting that a lot of people still are quite eager. Be like, yeah, well, it's true, but that doesn't mean that I care about stopping them. Okay, so now I'm going to close in this gap here. We're gonna leave this there so I can still get in, but we're gonna close it up on this side and just make this look a little bit more normal. It's gonna be weird because the lava lake is almost going to spill out if I'm not careful. That's something I should have considered, I guess, like brought it down a layer. There's a lot of things I could have considered and have not, but that's okay. So be the world. And now move this another layer back. And once we've got enough of that, put like a lip around it, maybe. Yeah, I guess that's what we can do over here. Like, if we just put a lip in, then all of this actually makes a lot of sense. And then the rest we can bring back down into a gradient so that this turns into something like this. Is it strange that we had pizza at Dad's funeral? Oh, I had pizza at the funeral yesterday too. It's an easy food. No one like wants to be cooking, right? Like you want to be just dealing with your funeral emotions, whatever they may be. In my opinion, I think it's weird though, because like big life celebrations, people will say are worth spending money on because they are once in a lifetime. I think, okay, this is, okay, if you want, here's the secret. if you want to make money in any industry, make it something that is once in a lifetime and you can't not do. Like what every business loves to hear is, I will pay whatever you will offer. It's like, yeah, you better believe, or whatever you ask for. That is places' favorite. That is my favorite thing to hear. You want to know what the suggested tip is if you'll pay anything? If you just want to be on a Toycat stream, you better believe the number's a lot higher than the 10 that is true for anyone else to get text to speech. I think it's a fairly understandable from a business perspective thing that like the people who are most price inflexible pay the most. This is, if you've ever seen how like train tickets or plane tickets work, it's the same idea. Do you know, you ever think about why are plane tickets cheaper 9 months before you go on a holiday or 9 months before you fly somewhere than they are on the day of? It's one very, very, very simple concept, and that simple concept is that, yeah, actually, crazy fact, people who are willing to book in advance would like a deal, and and the business travelers who need to be in that city because they're about to close a $50,000 deal, they have to be there regardless. They will pay the price. Why are one-way plane tickets more expensive than round trip? That's the real question. So Plague, I can give you the answer to that too. It's the exact same. Almost everything in the world where there's a confusing price discrepancy is because there's a price for people who need it, and there's a price for people who are price sensitive. And they don't want people who need a thing to realize they can get a better deal. And so the one-way ticket thing, this is meant to be about philosophy, but I'm going to teach you about airplane ticketing right now. So when you book in advance, when you need to be in a place day off, people know that you're an emergency. If it's a funeral, if it's whatever, you'll pay whatever the price is. And the same thing also applies for the length of your trip. People who go from London to New York for 3 days are probably there on business, maybe like a weekend or something. Whereas people who are going for 2 weeks are probably sightseeing. There are business travelers who go places for 2 weeks, and there are leisure travelers who fly into a city on Monday, fly out on Friday. But most of the time, business people want to be back home the weekend for their, wife and kids or whatever. And most of the time, travelers would like to make the most of their time off and their flights that they're spending so much on, and travel for as long as they can. And so just those two facts together mean the longer you stay somewhere, the cheaper the flight is. Usually the rule is if you stay somewhere on a Saturday night, because again, business travelers want to be home at the weekend for their kids, whereas, leisure travelers do not. Just that simple separation rule. By the way, how did a donkey get here? I'm not going to question it too much, but just, I don't know if that, he doesn't feel like he should be here. He's not tamed yet, so we'll tame him and we'll leave him be. Yep, he's tamed now. So, now, if you just having the single rule of a Saturday night stay means you can rule out selling someone a $3,000, flexible ticket for business travelers who need to be there, and you can instead give them the $400. Yeah, it's it's not very flexible. You gotta be there. But, we'll get you sorted. So you can sell someone much cheaper tickets. And so one way is have to assume you're doing the most expensive type of ticket. Because if it was cheap, if you could, let's say a round trip is $400 for the cheap tickets and $3,000 for the expensive ones. If you just bought 2 cheap one-ways for $200 each, no one would ever need the more expensive tickets. And so the simple idea is meant to be something along the lines of you will sell people you're segregating based on price, basically. You are trying to, oh, there we go. You're trying to price discriminate. You are very much trying to say, airlines never lose money, and any deal is becoming more of a screw you less situation. The funny thing about airlines though is they make basically no money. Obviously that's not truly true, or they wouldn't operate. But the average airline operating, the average profit margin for an airline is 7%, and then every time there's an economic downturn, they lose money, and huge amounts of it too, huge amounts of money, because it's really usually jet fuel prices will go up and passenger numbers go down at the same time. Tipping landlords, why? Oh, I love to tip a landlord. Also, I think you should tip a landlord because Why are you tipping anyone else? Is because they give you good service. If you had good service from a landlord, logically speaking, you don't know how much they're paid. You don't know that landlords don't have to make minimum wage. This is a little known fact, but landlords actually are allowed to work for less than minimum wage because they're legally contractors for their own companies. Landlords can make less than minimum wage. I think it's up to us to bring it up to minimum wage. Some would say that's the business's fault for, you know, they should charge the right amount, and they should. Nope, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's always the employee's problem when. It's always the customer's problem when a business has bad practice. I give money to all employees all the time because I'm a big I'm a big believer. Nope, we pay enough in rent. I live in New Zealand. Rent is ridiculously high. Yeah, and imagine how your landlord feels. He has to pay for rent, and then it also has to pay for the property that you're living in. I mean, really, you should tip him twice too. You know, I sounds like anyway, my point is to say, if you tip more than 5 categories of employee, landlords probably fit the categories of the same, except that you don't like them. And, like, it shouldn't be about liking and not liking people, right? Landlord fun incoming. Anyway, so, the few things in life that you can ever truly be sure of are death, taxes, and going to America and people saying, wow, I asked you for this amount of money, but it's actually rude not to give me a lot more than that amount of money. It's like reverse haggling. You go, okay, I would like to give you £5 for this bike. And they go, ooh, that sounds fair. And you go, awesome. And then they go, no, I wanted £6 actually. How dare you, you darn European. You don't understand our culture. That's the American experience. If you're from anywhere in the world that isn't but there's tipping based on if the service was so good as to warrant a tip versus tipping based on, oh my god, I can't believe you paid the price they asked for. Sorry, it genuinely, you know, I feel like there are like a few rage bait topics. One of them is religion. Like, I feel like it's everyone's quite aware of it. Like religion, politics, Star Wars, they're the classic three. Yeah, I think the most important thing that I can say, if I don't get out in this video, I'm gonna regret it, is that you get to decide what, like, when someone is alive, it is so important to respect their wishes. And the crazy thing is, when someone dies, that actually goes out the window. Legally, you lose full power of attorney over your life, your belongings. You get to direct where your money goes, but you don't get to... you have very strict limits on how you can control people using it. You cease to be a person the moment you die. And going through the whole process and seeing the whole thing and realizing even the funeral, even the expensive cars were... Again, it's like therapy bought for the people who are survived on behalf of the person who has, you know, caused that. But it's very interesting to see. It's very... Also, I don't think you get the same experience in the Midwest regarding tipping. I've been to some weird places that are like, oh yeah, just so you know, there's a service charge, but it's not a tip. Please do continue to tip on top of that. My landlord gets paid $37,440 just for owning a house. So here's the thing, right? I think it's really interesting because before investment advice was really widely known about, that would sound like just an objective win. Like, yeah, it's like how I own this bottle of Bucks Fizz. I bought it one day, and now anyone who wants to have that Bucks Fizz has to pay me. It's like, well, I mean, but then I wouldn't have the Bucks Fizz. Do you know the phrase, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too? If you think in the abstract of, like, yeah, just some random guy has a thing, and then one day you get to live in it, I think it's really cruel that everyone has to rent until they eventually can buy it themselves. Like, you have to give money to someone for a home is a brutal reality. I hope this tipping conversation didn't start from the talk about funerals. Oh, would you believe that my priest asked for tips? No, I didn't. Well, actually, he gave, again, I won't, he didn't do it during the service, but he did act very dispassionate and seemingly, you know, he didn't ask for, you gotta tip the priest. You do have to tip the priest. That's the funny thing. If you don't tip the priest assumes you're terrible. There was, I do have a religious member of family who did tip the priest, in case you're curious, by the way. I thought that was incredibly interesting. It's not a thing I would have known, like, it's fascinating to me on so many levels that someone can be like, yeah, so you gotta, here's the funeral costs, but make sure you tip a little extra. Make sure you get a little something. Collection plate is essentially the church asking for tips. Yeah, you gotta tip. You gotta do much better. Yeah, so okay, so the point to say about landlord things, because again, I'm not here to be like, oh, I love landlords, they're the best people. They're the third most hated group on the planet after, like, I don't know, ISIS and people who beg for charity. It's like it's a very, very small list of people hate more than that. Anyway, so the thing about owning something is, like, when you own something and let someone else live in it, you are not able to do so yourself. You can't have your cake and eat it too, is a phrase that didn't work out for far too long, means that once you have had your cake, once you've eaten your cake, you don't have it anymore. So you can save it for a later date, but it's a thing. So when you have if you are a landlord, if you're a person with a house, you can let someone live in your house for free and say, yeah, isn't it messed up someone should pay for housing? But actually what you realize happens very quickly is, like, well, you're not paying just for the purpose of living in someone's home they're not living in right now, because it's a very expensive home that they would be selling. And so, but even if you ignore that and just say, okay, this is someone who's going to live in my home, and I'm going to let them live there for free. I'm going to be an ethical landlord, and I'm not going to charge any money. You actually are paying for someone to live in your home, because there are lots and lots and lots of things that slowly break as people use them. Every 10 years, you need to replace, like, a floor, or you'll need to repaint, or you'll need to redo some plumbing. Every 50 years, your roof will break. A roof is just, it's getting constantly broken. Your electrics will need rewiring. I think it's every 60 years. That's expensive. There's a lot that goes into making a house habitable that is made much worse when people live in it. And so, yeah, I think I think that sounds kind of bad by itself. So it's like, okay, so the landlord it's not costing him $3,000 a month just to fix your boiler. You know, it doesn't cost him that much just to paint you. And so I'm sensing plumber vibes in this story. You know, my plumber slash friend who defiled my trust. In my last house, he ruined it entirely. But in this one, he made the place slightly nicer than when he moved in. But he stole all the light bulbs and toilet paper. But anyway, the point aside, is to say the real cost that you're paying a landlord for is, like, why should he let you live there when he could sell the house and have a much more value? Like, someone else could live in that house who pays him like $500,000, and then he'd have $500,000. And so you're effectively paying someone to not sell a house and to maintain it, and also for the fact that, unlike when you have anything else, you have a legal right to be in a home. Even when you stop paying for it, weirdly, you have quite long rights on being inside of a house. You're paying for a lot when you rent a house. And it feels like you're just paying for the privilege of someone not kicking you out. It feels like you're paying just some guy who has a lot of stuff, a lot of money. But there is another layer to it, in my opinion. But that's just me. I don't know. I feel like when I hear that people are indefensible, I want to take their side. That's what's been fun about. We haven't spoken about it, but the big war in that one part of the world. I'm glad we haven't. We're not going to. Don't you dare bring it up. But I think it's really fun. You know, that's been my takeaway from the acts of brutality and terrible humanitarian conditions in the Middle East. It's been real fun to see people picking sides. Housing is overvalued at the moment because it acts as a store of value. I think over the next while we may see some of that value erode and return to utility value. Who knows though? In the UK, okay, so this is a weird place where the US actually differs from the rest of the Anglosphere. In the US, in Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, housing in general just goes up at above inflation prices. In the United States, housing is going down on a per square foot basis in real terms. It goes slightly up, but when you take away your maintenance costs, you will break even on your house if you are lucky, and if you're in a really nice area, you'll make a bit of money. And it's so interesting as a comparison to, in the UK, I'll just tell some casual stories. It is very rare if you bought a home 10 years ago that it's not worth close to double what it was then. Also know if it's me, but the stream's dying. Also have no toilet paper. Lamau, you animal. I try to see the good in people, and so after my friend broke my boundaries, like he went into my room without my permission, but like after that happened, I was like, oh well, I never strictly said don't go into my space. I really value boundaries, so I set down the boundary. I was like, don't go into any room that you don't have express permission to be in, i.e. your room, your bathroom, and the kitchen. Anywhere else, you need my express permission to be there. He's like, okay. And then I started locking doors too, just to not just have emotional. And so he broke into my bathroom to steal my toilet paper. And I called him out on it, and he was like, nah, mate, I borrowed your toilet paper. And then, like, 5 days later, he's like, look, I gave it back. It was just borrowing. And to be fair, like, that's why I think it's so interesting, is like, if he had borrowed the toilet paper and then given it back before I even noticed it was gone, because I was gone for like 3 weeks or something, that is one thing. If he borrows the toilet paper and then the moment I say, hey mate, you broke into my bathroom to steal my toilet paper, he goes, no, borrowed, and then immediately has one ready, that's something too. If he goes right that second and gets me another one too, that's something. But to have no shame about the whole thing and just be like, I'll get to it when I get to it, was the wild thing to me. Anyway, yeah, you know, this is the real thing about life, the death, and the universe. There's 3 things you can't escape. It's living, it's dying, it's taxes, and it's stories about how my plumber became a bad friend, and then tried to blame me for the whole ordeal. Borrowing toilet paper from your enemy only to return it used. That's very much what it feels like. One does not simply all of someone's toilet paper. Also, I'm gonna quickly check, see if the stream is having issues on my end. Nope. It's interesting that it is for everyone else. I hope you're doing wonderfully. Turn the acacia tree into warped or crimson. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like, grow a tree on top of this, maybe. Could be a lot of fun. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I'm gonna put another layer down for now, and then we'll grow a big tree on the lump of this. Actually, no, we can't turn it into something else because it's a console nether. We gotta be careful about it. Getting gaslight over toy roll. I had the same thing about like I have a basic rule, right, which is layer 1 of being disrespectful is being bad to someone. Layer 2 of being disrespectful is being bad to someone and not even trying to hide it. And it's like, it's worse to hide it, right? But at least that shows a certain layer of respect. Whereas when you feel like you don't even need to respect someone enough to be like, yeah, I'm hiding this from you. That's a new level of something bad, right? When someone feels like, yeah, I am going to be very brazen and in your face about what a bad friend I am being right now, feels like a new layer of bad compared to, also, have I done that entire layer now? I think I have. Okay. So now we're going to work on the layer above that and bring it in. So, yeah, one of the... Oh, no. Oh, what a waste. Yeah, what happened to the renter from the former USSR? That was a more amicable ending. I don't want to talk about it. I saw her the other day, actually. She lives in the area, and she's very weird about not telling me where. I was like, oh, where are you moving? She's like, around. I was like, oh, you don't need to tell me. I'm genuinely just curious. Want to make sure everything's good. It's like, why do you care? I'm like, I don't. I don't know. It was like a, don't ask former. You know, she knows that the Stasi will be after her if I just tell her the wrong things. Very weird, I guess. Covering it up or not, meanness is still meanness. Honestly, that probably is an important lesson. That, like, you know, is it better to be dumb mean or conniving mean? If you're conniving mean, you're really trying to, like, you know, like, get away with it. And if you're dumb mean, you're just doing it so openly and being like, this is who I am. I physically can't not sleep with people on your sofa, Andrew. It's just not possible. Weird being on the other side of that situation. Yeah, I think the I think there's a also, how's your driving going? So, you know, it's funny. I did a whole thing to help people out. A lot of people are like, oh, but like in a YouTube video, I think people just about get it. But one of the big shames about the TikTok short world is like people see like, oh yeah, here is a single driving mistake made, because that's the funniest part of something. I think people have said this a lot, the idea of a TikTok generation. But explaining any nuance is so hard now, because it's so much easier just to explain, like, here is the thing. Okay, we don't have time for the details on it. But nuance is so important. That's the whole reason 78 minutes is short. Yeah, the nuance of what is it like when someone dies. Let me do the YouTube short version right now. Hey guys, mum's not alive anymore. And let me tell you the things I learned. Number one is that people around you will say, I'm sorry for your loss to you, and you are meant to accept that they do actually understand what your loss is like and have understanding of it. Now, number two is that, okay, this is too short, so I need to cut the script down way quicker. Number two is that you have a lot of people reaching out and feeling very awkward about the fact that they can't be there, and what, you know, is the single biggest event of someone else's life that to you is someone very important, but to them is like just a awkward event to go through. I had someone be like, yeah, they're gonna show up, but like they woke up late and they just want to get more of a lion, so they're gonna show up like right on the dot, and they just didn't. You know, like, you having people like do that for like a funeral, real. Anyway, so number three is that the whole process is sad. You'll see black and white photos of your loved ones, and you realize, oh, this is why they have black and white photos for people who are dead. Is that's a thing that happened, and the person you know is loved and is gone. Number five, the priest will ask for tips, and you've gotta. He does it in a way where it makes you sound like a monster if you don't do it. Number six, my priest who asks for tips and claims that he makes no money from doing what he does was just in New York for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I tell you. And don't get me wrong, he got the cheap tickets because he was there for 2 weeks. But New York is one of the most expensive cities. Yeah, if you're curious, one of the reasons why the funeral was delayed is because the priest was in New York. Imagine a priest in New York. Can you? That's and then you know, I to be fair, I go to New York for 2 weeks and I ask for tips. But you know, if you want me to officiate when one of your loved ones dies, let me do it. I would do a great job. So I did the fast forward version for TikTok. I still didn't make it into TikTok. That was a 3-minute YouTube video. That's like a 2012 attention span. No one has 2012 attention span in 2023. Now it's something like, hey guys. No wait, that's 2012 still. It's like, so actually boomers think that when you die you go to heaven, like WTF. Lol, we actually all go into a hole in the ground when we're over. I can just see a priest standing there and clearing his throat with the best Catholic guilt face going on. Yeah, it was he said like 2 words to me, and then I gave a speech, and he shook his head a couple of times at the speech. You know, chat, actually, so I didn't even think about this. I used the word arse, like the British arse, not American arse. It's important to say, like, but half arse, not half arse. You know, it's important, just so you understand. But yeah, also probably get to stay in a church on for free on the plus side. Oh yeah, right. You just gotta find a church friend and then you stay in his church. Man, religion is the best paying job that I can imagine. Hey, so oh my God, no wait, sorry, this is TikTok. I just learned that priests make $30,000 a year and also get their education paid for. Like WTF? Why do they pass around the collections bowl? There we go. That was a TikTok for you. Let me do the same but for deaf now. OMG, my, you know, like I saw the person who raised me, but with no life in their eyes. They got shorter at some point. As I don't know, like you can do a lot of weird things if you want to. But the underlying point is saying a good TikTok. let's release these as shorts. It's a great idea. Lord needs your money. Heaven ain't cheap. Yeah, for a while. That's the interesting thing about the basic advent of money, is that no matter what morality system you create, having money in that morality system is always better.
Hey Toy Cat. How are you? Just wondering when you're doing your next realm review, as I've sent you my long-term realm. Smiley face. Nevertheless, hope you're having a good. Also, I
hope you're
Welsh.
having a good. And I am also Welsh. Thank you so much, I dig O2. You know, I dig O2 too. You know, I dig Oxygen as well. Big fan of Oxygen. Do my very best of it. But Harrison's already on it, lol. Got some new TikToks coming soon, everyone. By the way, do you like my camera thing? While we're here, I feel like we need to at least discuss it. So I need to move this, but like over there, so I can see it. While we're here, I feel like I need to discuss this for a second. So I haven't worked out my green screen for this angle yet. Like I could show you, but like I also can't really. It just doesn't work. Anyway, so I haven't worked it out yet. It's easy enough. I just need to like get the right lighting, but I haven't gotten there yet. Anyway, in the meantime, I've got this fun little curve cam, and if I want to, I can do something fun, right? So I can. Let me show you something really silly. I was thinking of cutting off another corner, just like so. So I could do like something like this. What do you reckon about that, internet? Oh, it's a really weird shape compared to what I thought it would be. So I've got to go for something more like that. Oh, wait, okay. So give me a sec. I could go for like this. What do you reckon about this, internet? Is this is this the shape that you would come to expect? Maybe it should be like it should just flatten out earlier. So it should be like, yeah, there. But once you reach the top, then it's flat. Maybe we could go for like a this shape. There's a few designs I want to play around with. A square is cleaner. You know, squares are not clean. Squares will always have corners. You can't clean out fully. Looks like a house. Yeah, I see the house thing actually. Yeah, the Toy Cat, religion didn't, okay, so, religion didn't give you this, I did, I am better than God, says Busy. The thing is, right, is you needed, okay, so, in the theory of there being a deity, the deity created you and gave you that money, and then, really, that means that the deity did give it to me. Sorry to tell you. Hate to get you on that. But I think I just did. Just put the orange square over your face and call it a day. I look at the chat instead of the camera now of the looking into your soul thing. Oh yeah, I forgot to look at people's souls. Okay, let me do it. Okay, chat. I'm looking at your souls again now, I hope. More important question, do you like your new camera setup? I like it. It just feels weird. It feels like something's a bit off. Is it okay to talk about religion today? Just wondering. I think we should avoid and instead dive into the more important spiritual question, which is, when everything is done and everything is said, what is it that ultimately matters? And the answer for my whole life until now has always felt like the things that you physically leave behind. I think like a lot of guys, I'm a things person, not a people person. By the way, Toycat Tax, thanks for the cave revisit. Love that series. It'll be back, Larry Dannery. That's the crazy bit. I'm glad you love Caveman. It will be coming back. I really do. I really do think there's one important question that comes in how you think about your life. Sorry, I got a way more important
Long-time viewer, first-time tipper. This is for your pastors and wife fund. Got an inflation bonus and had to spend it on my favorite streamer.
Thank
Appreciate you, buddy. Parasocially.
SDK the 8. Thank you so much for saying I'm your favorite. I feel like a lot of things about streams and about the progress and the stats and the comparisons and all these things. But what I enjoy is the number of people who show up and say, yeah, I love this. Yeah, this is my... it's cool to... Thank you. You putting your money where your mouth is means a lot. And same for Chris H. I'd love to have a... Even if baseline, just an email, a curiosity about, like, what's going on. In terms of like what you do for a living, Chris H. I've got a lot of fascinations, have to do my due diligence, but also I'm very curious. You know, like actually not. If it turned out Chris H is like, yeah, he mugs people for a living, would it be still ethical to take his money? Because I would argue like, wow, if he mugs people for a living, the more money that I have is like the better I'm like doing in that regard. Life's all about the hearts you touch over your lifetime. So, here's the thing. I always felt like that was stupid. And on some objective level it is, right? Like, it's... If you touch people's hearts, then eventually those hearts you touch also stop beating. If you care about just the impact you make on those around you, eventually those around you stop making the impact and it's all over. But the deeper level, and so on like a level, as someone who, like, usually cares about things more than people, as someone who... I would describe myself as being fairly introverted, as not being inherently a people person. It wouldn't be my money if I was mugging it, just so you're clear. Oh darn. I think the important thing. Also, did you call me stupid? So cat flips desk. No, so that was my response for so long. I think after actually going through a funeral, is to say. Yeah, no one was like, I don't know, there was even stuff like, I don't know, like as a maybe as a mother her proudest thing was making some human beings, but no one was like, yeah, look at these human beings she made, or like look at the contribution she made to the managerial thing at the you know, like all the things that she accomplished and did. No one spoke about those. It was about who they were as a person and the hearts they touched and stuff. But I wonder if that's, like, funerals misleading. Like, I do believe, like, heavily, like, it is important to be good to people while I'm here. And it's something I want to do, and that's one of the reasons why I'm streaming today. Even though it's hard, I want to be here for you, Internet. If you've got a hard day, my hard day doesn't get in the way of your hard day. But the other thing is to say that I think no matter who you are, no matter what's going on, the greatest generation is barely remembered by Gen Z. What you've done won't matter in 100 years. I think calling it the greatest generation, nah, they kind of screwed themselves on that one. But yeah, in 100 years, none of those relationships matter, and so I think the actual smart thing to take from it is that it doesn't just matter who you touch in your heart. It doesn't just matter what you do. You need to do both. If you do amazing things but no one cares, you die a sad old man and no one will have a single positive thing to think about it or a single missing memory. And I also think, though, if you only have memories, that will also only last so long. You need to make sure you are doing things for people and not just being nice to people. You are doing things for the world. You are changing its course in a positive way. And so that in 100 years, even if no one knows that it was your impact, you did something for the world that made it a better place. And that's always what I'm aiming for. Anyway, speaking of things I'm aiming for, this has been a live stream. I hope you enjoyed coming. I will be here on Thursday, which I've learned is Toycat's Giving Day. Toycat's, it's clever, because it's the day of Toycat giving. I only just got it right now. And I look forward to seeing you there. Tomorrow, I do apologize for not having a video today. I took a gamble on there being an update out, so I was like, okay, that would be the most important video if there was. The update didn't come out, so I guess I'll be waiting a week on that. But instead, yeah, tomorrow I have a fun video about the Trowel Key. And on Thursday, it's Toycat's Giving Day. It's going to be a lot of fun. But for now, thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. We'll see you all next time. And in the same way that the sun will drift off into the bottom of the world. Oh, in the same way the sun will drift off into the nether, I too, we will all drift off one day into the great beyond. And I hope you do so peacefully. And I hope you do so knowing that you've done something that mattered. There we go. Got it away. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I appreciate everyone who showed up today and has watched this to this point. Without you, I would be nothing, literally.